YouTube, welcome back. Today we are going to go through another lower body workout example, but this time a hamstring focus. Okay, so in the last video we did a quad focus, so if you haven't seen that already, go and take a look. But in today's video we're going to go through a hamstring focus. So again, we're going to pick, four exercises, the main bulk of the session. So again, this is just an example. This is just sort of the foundations. There might be exercises you want to add on towards the end or throughout the session, and I might touch on that towards the end. But in this video itself, it is just the basics, the fundamentals of what a lower body example session might look like. Don't forget, if you do enjoy the video, please do drop a like and a comment, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe. So just like the other lower body workout example video that we did, I'm going to walk you through each exercise and the cues for those exercises, so when you come to do them yourself, you know how to perform them pretty well. Okay, we're going to have not me just talking through it, but also a video alongside it. Now, the reason behind exercise order selection is going to be very, very similar to what I explained in the quad workout. So if you do want a bit of explanation behind that, go and make sure you do check out that video. But in today's video, we're going to go through an RDL, Romanian deadlift. We're going to go through a seated leg curl. We're going to go through some walking lunges, and then we're going to go through a hip extension. Okay, so we're going to start with the RDL, the Romanian deadlift, and we're going to start with this movement because it is going to be the most taxing, most fatiguing movement of them all. So, one of the benefits of having it at the start is that you're freshest, got the most energy to complete this movement. Okay, now this is a hip hinge movement. Okay, so you need to understand and have focus on the hips doing the majority of the moving here. Okay, an issue a lot of people have is that they bend far too much at the knees, and as the bars drop in, they're also bending their knees with it. At the beginning of the movement, have a slight bend in that knee, that's absolutely fine. Okay, but as you start moving, you want to focus on those hips driving back. Imagine someone's got a band around your hips, and as they're pulling that band, what's going to happen? Your hips are going to fly back. Okay, so your hips are going to fly back. That bar, think about that bar staying as close to your legs as possible. Okay, think about it painting your shins as you drop, right? Now, you want to drop down and hips back as far as you can until you feel like those hips can't move back anymore. Once those hips can't move back anymore, that is going to be your depth. Okay, once you've got there, you're going to initiate from the glutes, and you're going to think about driving the hips forward. Okay, again, keep that bar close to you. It's painting those shins, but think about the hips driving forward. Okay, so throughout this whole movement, you're always thinking about hips back, hips forward, hips back, hips forward. Okay, obviously, as you progress this movement, as we get some weight on the bar, we want to make sure these shoulders are also locked in. Okay, so a good cue for this is to think about trying to drive your shoulders into your trouser or short pockets. Okay, so those shoulders want to be locked back and down into the pockets. Think about driving your elbows into your body. Okay, that's going to create lats nice and tight. So once you've got that position, you're locked in the upper body. And again, we're going to go through what we just previously spoke about with the focus on those those hips breaking back and moving forward. Last thing I'd mention with the RDL, one thing we don't want to do is be overextending. Okay, so with your core, think about bracing and think about bringing the pelvis to the rib cage. Okay, so you always want to try and keep this back in this nice and neutral position. We don't want to be overextending as we lock those shoulders in. Okay, so even though you're going to lock the shoulders in, think shoulders into pockets. This core is going to stay braced and tight, pelvis to rib cage. You're going to keep that position as you move through. Secondly, we've got the leg curl. I did speak about leg curl in the quad session as well, but we're going to go through it again very briefly. It's a nice straightforward movement, although it can be quite easy for a lot of people to butcher. Now, what you want to make sure is your hips always want to stay pinned in the seat. Okay, so adjust that seat, the back pad, so there's not much room between your back and the seat. Okay, once you're in that position, adjust the foot pad. Okay, bring that foot pad as high as you can up your back of your leg, that's comfortable, but you want to make sure that your knee is in line with the axis of the machine. Okay, so where the machine's going to rotate, that's where your knee wants to be in line with. Bring the pad down until it's nice and tight on those legs. If it's not tight as you curl, your hips are going to want to come out, and we don't want that to happen. Okay, so make sure that pad's nice and tight on your legs so you're locked in. If you can drive off that pad, or if there's something on the machine to drive off of, push off. Okay, again, as you're pushing off that machine, you're thinking about driving your hips back and down. As you curl, just think bringing heels to bum. And in this movement, this is going to take advantage of that nice short position of the hamstrings, okay? And that's going to be at the back of the machine when the heels are to the bum. So have a slight pause here, take advantage of that portion of the movement. But keep driving yourself in. As you're curling in, you want to think about driving your hips back and down, pushing off. Okay, so next movement we're going to do is walking lunges, okay? We're going to give the hamstrings a little bit of a break. We've challenged the hamstrings in its lengthened position, its shortened position. We're now going to give it a little bit of a break before we challenge it as mid-range. And we're going to go into something to challenge the quads, glutes, which is the walking lunges. Okay, now one of the main mistakes I see people make with walking lunges is that they rush the movement. They rush the reps, they go straight into the next rep without making sure that the form execution is bang on. Okay, so one of the biggest tips with walking lunges is take your time. Okay, as you land that front foot, I would literally pause as you land to make sure that you've got tension on the quad, glute, and make sure that you're dropping a nice, slow, comfortable tempo. Okay. The last thing we want is to be rushing it and for that knee to be tracking in, or for us to be wobbling around as we're dropping. So front foot lands. Think 3 points of contact of that foot on the ground. Back foot on toes. Okay. As it's landed, you're going to pause. You're going to think tension quad, glute. You're going to drop down. You're going to think front knee traveling over the toes, but don't let the heel come off. Okay. Again, nice and slow. Don't let that knee track in. Think about it staying over the toes, even slightly out. And you're going to drop to a comfortable depth. Okay. From the bottom, you're going to initiate from quads, glutes, and you're going to think about driving the hips forward as you come up. Okay. Pause in between each rep before you go into the next one. So again, you can focus on form execution, make sure it's nice and solid. If you want to focus a bit more on the quads on this, make sure that body stays upright. If you want to focus a little more on the glutes, you can give yourself a slight lean forward. Okay, then lastly we're going to go into the hip extension. Right, now this is going to be slightly different to what you might typically see because we want to focus more on the hamstrings through this movement. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to set up the pad of the hip extension so it sits just a little bit below the hips. Okay, so you want a slight gap between the pad and the hip bone. Right, now you're going to have a bend in the knee and you want to drive your knee into the pad and you want to drive your hips up off the pad. Okay, so you're going to have a slight sort of almost like, think about like a 90th degree in your angle, in your hips. So the hips are driving up towards the back corner of the room and the knees are driving into the pad. Okay, then all you're going to do is very slowly and controlled is let that upper body come over. As the body comes over, keep driving those hips up and keep driving the knee in. Okay, when you get to a comfortable depth, you're going to pause, you're going to initiate from the glutes, from the hamstrings, and then you're going to let the body come back up. And as you do that, keep driving the hips up to the back corner of the room and keep driving the knees into the pad. That's going to help put a lot more emphasis on the hamstrings through this movement. And there you have it. There's your foundation for a hamstring focused lower body workout. Again, this is just an example of what you could include, what it might look like. Feel free to adjust it, add movements in. You might want to add on some add-on exercises at the end of this session, maybe a bit of shoulders, arms, calves, whatever you might want to do. If you want to do more hamstring quad volume, then by all means add some more exercises. This is just an example to hopefully get you thinking, but to also walk you through those exercises to help you with performing them, to make sure that you're confident with your form execution in them. If you do have any questions, please throw them in the comments. If you'd like to see any particular exercises or maybe any particular workouts, particular muscle groups, let me know. If you did enjoy the video, please drop a like, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe. I'll catch you on the next one.